Kerbal space program. Mon or bust. Moon or bust. Resume save. I don't think we have a save. No, we can't have a save. Trading. We should probably do the tutorials. Those are probably good things to do. Get started and basic construction. The graphics are so... I thought it took some time to set the graphics to look good while I was setting up, but maybe the graphics just don't look very good. Welcome to today's lecture on vessel construction. I'm Werner von Kerman. Whether you want to put a little satellite into orbit or make transcontinental flights, or step into very surface of the moon, you're going to need to build yourself a ship. It should be pretty easy, even if you're not a famous rocket scientist like myself. In this tutorial, I will first show you around the Kerbal Space Center. Then take you to the vehicle assembly building, where you'll learn how to construct a simple ship. We'll cover adding and removing parts, what the parts do, how to change the performance settings of the parts which have the options, and how to control staging. At the end of the tutorial, you will have a craft fit for quick hop from the launch pad. At each step, I will walk out all controls other than the ones you need for that step. If you still manage to mess up, look, even me sometime as become skilled as I am now, you can press the back button and go back and fix things. It won't light up unless you do mess up. We are now at the Kerbal Space Center. I'll give you a quick rundown on how to get around. The Kerbal Space Center, the KSC for short, is home to the pinnacle of the Kerbal endeavors and achievements of the exploration. Using the facilities you can see here, you will be able to manage your space program, create rockets and planes, track your Kerbal explorers as they roam the solar system, find exciting new uses for explosive substance, and in case of emergencies, hire Kerbals. Is there a way to make this text bigger? Because I'm having a hard time reading this. To find out each of the facilities, you can hover your mouse over the facilities button. They show up when the cursor is outside this window. If you need to repair a structure or upgrade them in career, you can do this by right-clicking them. Take some time to hover the mouse over the building and see what they each are. And when you're ready, enter the vehicle assembly building. The tracking station, the research development, at R&D, your team of scientists work hard to crunch the data received from mission experiments. Here, all research technologies can be viewed and new ones discovered. At the tracking station, all ongoing missions can be viewed on focus landing, and the crafts can be recovered here as well. The VAB is where spacecrafts are designed and built for being moved over to the launch pad for flights. The astronaut complex contains the living and recreation space for all crew members. New applicants also apply here to be recruited. The administration building may not seem like a very exciting place at first, but this is where all the strategic decisions are made. Vehicle assembly building, the VAB, is where spacecrafts are designed and built before being moved over to the launch pad for flight. Space hangar. Space hangar allows construction of a spacecraft designed to be launched from the runway. Mission control. At the mission control facility, all available contracts can be managed. It also offers a very nice view of the launch site for any who are brave enough to be so close to a launching craft. The launch pad is a vessel built at the UAV are launched. We are reasonably confident it is safe enough for distance from everything else. At the runway, spacecraft built in the space hangar have a long flat surface to reach takeoff speed. Conceivably, such aircraft could land back on. Okay. Take some time to hover the mouse over the buildings, see what each are. When you're ready, enter the vehicle assembly building. Very good. I should do with some sort of voice. Very good. What you see in the middle of this screen is a construction area. This is where parts are placed and your aircraft is constructed. On the left side of the screen is the parts toolbox. It will show all the parts you have available in each of the different categories. Once there are any to pick, that is. If you wait your craft to be controlled, you need a command module. And it's best to make it the first place you start. This will either contain some plucky Kerbal crew or an automated pilot mechanism. Sorry. As we're just starting, there's only one choice. Go ahead and pick the command module, pod. Pods tab. The Pods tab. The command module Pods tab. Where's the command module Pods tab? That doesn't help. Pods. Found it. After at least part is placed. After at least one part is placed, you can look around with the following controls. Orbit the camera, arrow, or drag the right mouse. Whoa. Whoa. Wow. Move the camera up and down. Scroll wheel. Oh. Zoom the camera. Shift scroll wheel. Whoa.
If you'd like your pilot to be able to make more than one flight, he or she will have to return safely to the ground or water on Kerbal. Parachutes are a simple way to make sure that happens. They can be found on the Utilities tab. Change tabs by clicking their icons on the left of the part list window. When you're choosing parts, you can view the details of available parts by hovering over them in the toolbox. When the info is visible, most parts have an additional information window which can be opened with a right click. Note that the parachute states the effective diameter in each state and what the maximum safe speed for deployment is. Go ahead and select MK16 parachute by left-clicking on it. Then move it to the top of the command pod so that the green sphere at the bottom of the parachute line up with the green sphere at the top of the pod. Click again to attach.
Alright. You know when you read and you only half pay attention to what you're reading? What am I doing? Go ahead and select MK16 parachute by left clicking on it. Oops. Making parachute. Left clicking on it. Clicking on what? The Utilities tab. Utility. Parachute. Bam. I'm an expert.
Some parts, like our parachute here, have configurable options. To see these, we need to right-click on the parachute we just attached to the pod. Do that now, and we'll see the available parameters. On the parachute, you will see you can adjust our altitude and the atmospheric pressure at which to open. That setting can be quite useful on distant worlds. For now, let's check that the opening height on the chute is at least 1,000 meters. Because safety is the Kerbal way, after all. For the minimum pressure slider, move it a bit to the right, to 0.2. This setting prevents the chute from activating until the atmospheric pressure is above the configured value. On Kerbal 0.2 is about 9 kilometers in altitude, so even if you stage early and on the parachute, it will wait until then to activate. You can hide these options by right-clicking on the background scene or picking up another part when there's one available. When you're happy with that, we can proceed. Next up, we're going to need something to make us go. Click the Engines tab on the left and show the available engines and solid rocket motors.
Engines.
Grab one and connect it to the bottom of the pod. You may need to zoom or move the camera to be able to do so. Oops, I forgot you're just starting out. You're not a famous rocket scientist, and to make that craft survivable, As it stands now, you'd have to be better at rocket science than me. Ha! Impossible. The problem with the craft is that the solid rocket is too powerful for the payload. A single small pod and shoot. You can either burn up on ascent from going too fast, or burn up from coming back down. Even if you survive that, the craft's mass will cause it to fall too fast for the parachute to operate properly, and you'd hit the surface before it could stop you. Okay, I promise to teach you how to change that to make it work in a later tutorial. But for now, let's continue. Well, at least this way I get to tell you about removing parts. Pick up the back thumper, and either drop it back over to the parts toolbox or press delete. The back thumper? This thing? Is that the back thumper? It doesn't tell me what the back thumper is. Oh, there you go. Instead, let's add a solid motor that is a better match for the ship of this size. At the start of your career, you will have what I consider rubbish parts. Literally, the motor here looks like, and may well be, a converted trash can. That said, it does have enough oomph to get this little craft moving skyward, and quickly. As you progress, you will be able to unlock more engines and other parts. For now, though, let's pick up the RT-5 flea and connect it to the bottom of the pod. Okay, I did it. Nice one! You've built the simplest survivable craft possible. You could go launch it right now, but it might be safer to explain one other thing first. In the bottom right, you will see the staging stack. It's a box with the number 0 and icon for the parachute and engine in it. This stack shows us which part will be activated as we stage our rocket. What this shows is that when we activate the next stage, both the engine and the parachute will be triggered. While it could be considerably funny to open the chute and fire the motor at any time, it's not going to give you much of a fight. To fix this, we need to separate the engine and chute into 2 stages. If you mouse over the 0 stage, you will see a little plus or minus appear in the left box. Click the plus button to add a new stage. If you add too many, click the minus button on the extra ones to remove them. Make sure you have precisely 2 stages. Oh my goodness, I just read all of that, but I don't know what I just read. Not that I don't understand it, but like, I actually zoned out and was thinking about something else while I was reading it. Which I don't understand other than the fact that we have 2 sides of our brain and the ability to do that somehow without interfering with each other. This is really weird. What am I doing? Click the plus button. Nice one in the bottom right. On the bottom right. Yes, this right here. Plus and minus. Parachute and the engine. The stack shows us the stage of a rocket.
What this shows is when we activate the next stage, both the engine and the parachute will be triggered. While it could be considered funny to open and shoot and fire the motor at the same time, we're not going to give it that. To fix this, we need to separate the engine and the chute into 2 stages. Mouse over to the 0 stage, you will see a little click the plus button to add a new stage. Okay. If you add too many, click the minus and extra ones and remove it. Make sure you precisely 2 stages. So stage 0 and stage 1.
Excellent. It's important to note that the stages activate from the highest number and then count down. So the first stage will be stage 1, the engine, and our second stage will be stage 0, the chute. Now drag the engine icon on stage 0 down to stage 1 to give our pilot some comfort.
Now they're different.
That's it. We now have a safe, relatively safe craft that's ready to go. Let's make sure if we need to design it again, we don't have to build it all from scratch. At the top of the screen, you will see the name of our craft. Untitled Spacecraft doesn't seem so majestic. Why don't you change it to be something more your style? And you can add a description if you'd like to. When you use the load screens later, these names and descriptions will help you grab the right vessel. When you're happy with the name, click the save icon on the upper right.
Untitled Space Goose. Honk.
Excellent work. Feel free to play around with the parts and techniques I've shown you. And when you're ready to continue, press the red button on the upper right to exit. Back to the training menu, try the Flight Basics tutorial to learn how to fly this little craft. And then the Intermediate Construction tutorial can teach you more about the editor. Note, any vessel you create here will be lost when you exit. This is just for playing around.
Can I test anything? Can I just... No. This game is going to involve a lot of reading. A lot of reading. I wanna make the text bigger if possible. Add-ons and mods. Just want the font to be bigger. Is there nothing for the font? General UI scale. It's a bit better. Hopefully that changes the font too. Only reading during tutorials unless you absolutely want to read everything. I mean, yeah. But there's no other way. Or at least I'm not gonna learn by just trying it out. I've always heard this game is kind of complicated. So, lots of reading during the tutorials. It's too bad it's not voice acted or something. Yeah, keep clicking the button that takes it out of full screen. Alright, hopefully that makes the dialogue bigger. Basic flight. Welcome to the Kerbals. This isn't a scientist, dude. Welcome to the Kerbal Space Launch Facility. I'm Gene Kerman, and I will teach you the basics of piloting a spacecraft. I trust you've already checked the basic construction tutorial. If not, I recommend you do so before going through this one. Today, we will do a run-through of all the important controls on your spacecraft. Our little hopper from your basic construction lesson with Werner may not have all of them, but we'll do a full run through once and see how it flies. If you're ready to go, press next. Flying a spacecraft is all about being in control of generally very chaotic situations. As a pilot, your main flight controls will affect your pitch, yaw, and roll of the ship. Let's look at those first. All the controls will be locked until they're needed or this tutorial is closed. Pitch, yaw, and roll are the three directions you will rotate your craft. To help you visualize these, we've taken a holiday snap of the hopper below. The roll, the pitch, the yaw. So the yaw is horizontal, the roll is the twist, and the pitch is vertical. Got it. Next up, we'll see how we rotate in these directions. You control your ship's rotation using these controls. SWAWQW. So SW, that's the vertical, which is the pitch, the yaw, and the roll. Okay, that makes sense. By controlling pitch, yaw, and roll together, you can keep the ship in a controlled flight. Try it now, and notice the indicator on the left side move as you provide control input. I see that, but I don't see anything happening. I guess they're locked. Alright. Throttle plus pitch, yaw, and roll are the main controls you'll need to master to successfully for a successful crash-free flight.
We'll skip over the throttle control for now, as this vessel has no need for it. Don't worry, I'll explain in another time when it's of use. Remember that all these controls have a limited amount of effectiveness, so bigger, heavier ships will probably respond as much more sluggishly to the controls than a little small one. It's also good in mind that as stages are separated from the ship, it will become lighter, and this will usually mean easier to control. Next, let's look at the rest of the flight controls.
Wait, I just read that again. Didn't actually read it. You'll skip over the throttle. Remember that all of these controls have a limited amount of effectiveness, so bigger, heavier ships will probably respond much more sluggishly. It's good to keep in mind the stages are separated. Alright.
In flight, all the planning you put into the staging sequence of your ship comes into play. From launch to the final deployment of the descent parachute, you can control the activation of several of the ship's parts by activating stages. Space, launch, / activate next stage. Notice the stage indicator in the lower left corner. It shows the current active stage.
Lower left corner. Oh, I see.
Notice the stage indicator in the lower left corner. It shows the current activated stage. Since we haven't launched yet, it's showing the first stage as active. I have your staging controls locked for now, so the stage indicator is glowing purple. One more thing on staging. If the stage setup is causing strife, or you change your mind about something, you can edit the stage sequence on the fly. Pun intended. No need to go back to the assembly facility. As important parts of flying is knowing your ship is oriented and where it is going. That's why a good pilot is always aware of the ship's altitude, where it is pointing, and its velocity vector, where it is going. These aren't always the same direction, and as your skills improve, you should pick up on these. The big round instrument on the lower center of the screen is called the nav ball. This device sums up most of the critical information needed for proper death-free flights. Here you see the ship's nose in relation to the horizon. When you're not pointing straight up, it is easily visible as a line between blue sky and a brown ground, as well as its heading, compass bearing, and speed. You also get several icons that indicate things like your current velocity vector, but we'll have a look at those later. In the top center part of the screen, you have an altimeter, vertical speed indicator, and atmosphere gauges. The altimeter will show the distance to the planet's surface at sea level. This means the actual surface may be much closer, so watch out for the ground when landing. Your vertical speed indicator shows how quickly your altitude is changing. When launching, it's considered best to keep this gauge pointing up. The atmosphere gauge indicates how deep the ship is in the planet's atmosphere. This helps you know if the ship is high enough for orbiting without losing speed to air resistance, or judge how effective wings and controls surface will be. The altimeter, the vertical speed indicator, the atmosphere gauge. Alright, I only half paid attention. One last thing before we give this rocket the green light. In the staging stack, you can see the indicator for your parachute. This indicator shows when the chute will be activated by staging. You already know that, but the background will also change color to indicate that when it is safe to stage the parachute. And the foreground, the parachute bit of the icon itself, will change color depending on the parachute state. Note, however, that by default, parachutes will not deploy when unsafe, even if you stage them. The left three shows safety. The left three show safety: safe, risky, and unsafe. The chute is staged white in the left three. The right three show state after staging: armed, deployed, and cut/shredded. When you are familiar with the chute icon's color, we can move on. So, armed, blue, deployed, and shredded, it's bad. And then the other one's just safety. Okay. I think I can remember that. Okay, enough talk. I'll unlock the flight controls and you'll be clear for launch. Ow, my eye. Sorry. At any time... I feel like somebody's cutting onions in my house. Because that's what my eyes are feeling like right now. At any time, you may press escape to pause the game. In the pause menu, you can restart the flight or end this tutorial. Choose End Scenario and return to the main menu. For now, get yourself prepared and hit space when ready to launch. Don't forget, our hopper has only a solid rocket motor, so there's no throttle control. That's why we didn't review the throttle here. Make sure to fly in a nice arc and enjoy the flight. Whee! Spin. Your solid motor has burned out. You're passing up is the highest point of your flight. Your speed is low enough that it's safe to stage again to deploy the parachute. Do so now, before you speed up again and hit the surface. And now we sit back and enjoy the descent.
Feel like my parachute didn't fully come out. Kinda interesting. I did it.
Well done. You survived your first quick flight. When you're landed or splashed on Kerbin and not in training, you can point the mouse just above the altimeter and click to the recover button on the panel that slides down to ask to be picked up.
On the panel that slides down. Oh, right here.
I've also unlocked the crew hatch, so if you feel like going out for a walk or swim, you can click the EVA extra vehicular activity button that will pop up when you mouse over the portrait of the Kerbal that you want to take for a walk. You can do it just for fun or collect surface samples. This concludes today's lesson to training. You press escape to access the pause menu and end scenario to return to the main menu. I hope to see you again to learn more about the suborbital flights, perhaps. Bye.
Let go. You can just go explore if I want. Okay. And how do I get back in the ship? How do I get back in? Bum 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 doo doo. Parachute. I hate it when it gets so quiet. I don't know how to get back in though. They didn't teach me how to get back in. Unfortunately, I need a ladder, so I can't actually get back in. Well, I guess they'll teach me that later.
In scenario.
One, two. Alright, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. At least 12. I don't know how many of these will get done today, but at least 12 more tutorials in order to understand the game. Might take a break in like an hour or something.
Hello again. Glad you could come back. To get started, go ahead and enter the VAB, and I'll give you the overview of what we're building today. Ah, here we are again. Now, to business. If you remember, in our last construction tutorial, we covered how to build a simple hopper and some of the basics of the construction area. In this tutorial, we'll expand your knowledge of some of the more useful features in the VAB, and we'll build a more complex craft that will be able to get us out of the atmosphere. To build our new design, let's start with the craft we built in the basic construction tutorial. Though this one is just called Hopper, this will save us a little bit of time. The accounting department is always happy when we save on time. Click on the open button on the top right corner and load the hopper, then remove its RT5 fleet motor. If you mess up, you can recreate the craft from the parts list by placing a pod first, then a parachute on the top of it. Note that throughout the tutorial I will leave all parts you need available to be placed. If you delete the craft file somehow, close the load dialog and open it again, and the craft will be back. Unlike last time, we won't be bringing the whole vessel back. So we can change our parachute stats from what we used before. Right-click on the parachute and verify that the deployment altitude is set to 1,000 as last time, but also set the minimum pressure slider all the way to the right at 0.75 atmospheres. That corresponds to an altitude on Kerbal of about 2 kilometers and means as much shorter time hanging around during descent. First off, let's change the name of the craft and the description if you want, so that we'll have our trash can special for later on. Simply change the name to something other than Hopper and we can proceed.
Something other than Hopper. Wait. My bad. Hopper.
And we can proceed.
And we can proceed.
There.
I follow instructions good.
Great. For this craft, we are going to give the ship some additional purpose by attaching a science experiment. We can run these experiments during our travels and get valuable science data for Kerbal kind. There are a number of science experts to be performed, but at the moment we only have the mystery goo containment unit available. Switch to the Science tab to look at it. This is one of the most basic scientific experimental Kerbal scientists have devised, and one of the first things they want to try and understand better. I mean, they don't even know what color the goo is.
Switch to the Science tab. Yeah. What are we doing with this? Switch to the Science tab. Take a look. This is okay. He hasn't told us what to do with it yet.
When you pick up the part, you will see that it's designed to attach to the sides of other parts, i.e. radially. If we attach only one of these during flight, our craft will be unbalanced. One way to solve this is to add extra goo containers on the opposite side of the rocket so that they can balance. Luckily, we have a symmetry tool to help here. These button controls symmetry highlighted and angle snap, and can be found on the lower left of the screen. Press the symmetry button, or the X key, to cycle through the available symmetry modes. Set this to 2x, and then pick up and place a mystery goo containment unit on the side of the pod. Near the top, you'll notice a second one has been placed opposite of the first by the symmetry tool. If you had already placed a lone canister, pick it up, make sure the symmetry is set correctly, and place it again so that it can duplicate on the other side. Remember to place the canister near the nose of the pod.
Where's the symmetry tool? I click. So we just want the double.
The dubs.
Near the top? If you replace it, remember to place the canister near the nose of the pod. It says near the nose, but not on the nose.
If we add too many parts here, the craft we are making will be too heavy to survive re-entry safely, and too heavy to be slowed down by our parachute, leading to a sudden impact syndrome. So we will need to add a decoupler below the pod. Decouplers can be found in the Kerbal tab, and will let us split the craft when we no longer need the lower parts. We won't be able to recover the discarded parts, but at least our craft and our Kerbal will survive re-entry and landing. Decouplers can be used in many ways, but for now, let's just add one of these to the bottom of the pod. Go to the coupling tab, grab the TD12, and place it.
Couping. DD12. Place.
Note that stacked decouplers have arrows. The arrows show which side is the side that decouples. Make sure your decoupler arrow is pointing up.
Yeah, I see it.
Towards the pod. It will be by default. Well done. You'll recall, I hope, that in the previous tutorial we had to adjust the staging stack when we added the engine to our earlier rockets. when we add a decoupler, the extra stage is automatically added to the stack so that any new parts below the decoupler won't be staged at the same time as those above it. You can, of course, still move these around, but hopefully this will save you some time as you go. If you ever want to return to this default staging setup, click the reset button at the bottom of the staging stack. This time we're going to use a liquid propellant rocket engine. Unlike solid rocket motors, these engines don't carry their own propellant with them. So we need to add some fuel tanks. Go to the fuel tanks tab. We are using these early parts, so there are only FLT 100s available. This is another area, like engines, where advancements brings bigger and better parts. We are going to need 5 of these tanks to get us to space. Before you grab the 5 tanks on the part of the toolbox, though, let me give you another tip. Because efficiency is my middle name, it goes right after Von.
Werner von Efficiency Kerman.
Once you place the first tank on the rocket, you can duplicate it by holding the left Alt key and clicking on the tank. You can do this on the bottom tank a few times and quickly get 5 of these attached without having to go back to the toolbox. Add 5 FLT 100 tanks to the vessel and we can proceed.
Fuel tanks. 3, 4. That's 6. Why does it skip the 6? Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Oh, I see. 1. Left alt. What? I'm clicking left alt. Once you place the first tank, you can duplicate it by holding and clicking on the tank. Oh, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okie dokie.
Good. Switch over to the engines tab now. The swivel engine. The swivel engine you see here is obviously from the flea we used before. This is a liquid engine and it needs and burns both liquid fuel and oxidizer. Funnily enough, that's what we just added to the rocket. Attach the LV-T45 swivel to the bottom of the rocket stack now, and keep an eye on the staging stack to see how it changes.
Just to the bottom. Attach it. Oop. Just, keep an eye on the staging. So I added another stage for that specific part.
We are almost there, and you're doing fine. Maybe not as speedily as someone of my caliber. The last thing we are going to need to do is give this rocket a little better stability, so it keeps going the way we want it to go. We will achieve this by adding some fins near the bottom of the rocket. Fins can be found in the aerodynamics tab. Set the symmetry mode to 4x, so we will place them on both axes. Also, turn on angle snap.
Wait, what am I doing? fins can be found in the aerodynamics. Set symmetry mode to 4. You can turn on the angle snap by clicking the button next to toggle snap.
Drop basic fin on the last rocket tank, and you'll see the other 3 symmetry parts will be placed as well.
The last rocket tank.
Excellent. We've now got a rocket that will let us reach the stars. Admittedly, I did say reach for, as this is a basic rocket that can't achieve orbit. But on the brighter side, that means re-entry will also be basic. You've done a great job in building a basic hopper and a suborbital capable rocket. Hopefully, you've learned a few things about how to build a craft and some to use of the shortcuts that are in here. Feel free to hang around a bit and try your hand at other things too, or perhaps you could look at the next lesson of suborbital flight, where we will see just how well this rocket performs. Or head over to the science tutorial to learn how to advance your career and unlock more parts. If you could show yourself out the construction facility with the red button on the top right.
That's not a red button.
When you're done experimenting, that would be great. Auf Wiedersehen. Where's your sneak?
Auf Wiedersehen.
Sneaking.
I don't know how to say that. Maybe this is your crate here will be lost in your exit. Blah, 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 blah. And they give me all the parts now. Whee!
Well, that's a real spacecraft. Mm-hmm. That's right. We'll kill some space aliens with this.
Can't even. Alright, I guess we're just leaving. Dun, 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 dun. Training. Suborbital flight.
Hello again. Glad you could make it back. Today we will take an exciting step, getting our first Kerbal into space. Yup, with a capital S. Hopefully you remember the controls we discussed in their basic flight tutorial, but don't forget that you can always press escape and click the view key bindings button for a reminder. If you're ready, let's get started. Your mission today is to make a short suborbital, less than orbital, flight out over the water to the east. It's a nice arcing path that ensures a gentle, survivable re-entry. Straight up and then straight down is not so good for survival. I've set up the pink target indicator on the Navi ball as aim points, but Note that this is not the case for normal missions. The target marker is normally used for other things and does not help with ascents. Starting with the nose pointing straight up on the launch pad or 90 degrees elevation from the eastern horizon. Till east, 80 degrees elevation on the Naviball by 150 ms. Start at 50 ms. Wait, what? Till east, 70 degrees.
This is like instructions during flight. Till east, 80 degrees. Till east, Naviball. Meters per second. No, not millisecond. Meters a second.
It's a burnout. Coast up into space and look around. Prepare for re-entry. Lastly, re-enter and land safely. Once we reach burnout, i.e. run out of propellant, we'll have a bit more time to discuss some other things. Unlike the Hopper in our first lesson, this new craft has liquid fuel engines, which means we can use the throttle to set out the output of the ship's engines. Throttle is controlled by the following keys. Left shift throttle up. Left control, throttle down. Z, throttle max. X, throttle cutoff. Try these out. You'll see the indicator needle slide up and down along slide up and down along the graph on the left side of the Naviball.
Okay.
SAS stands for Stability Augmentation System, although Kerbal astronauts usually refer to it as a sickness avoidance scheme. Whatever it stands for, what it does is try to stop the ship from spinning around. Using the computer-controlled auto-torque drive compensator technology to counteract the rotation of the ship. It is the simplest mode. It will keep the ship aligned with the orientation it has when you turn SAS on, or if you pitch, yaw, roll while SAS is on, the orientation when you release the controls. SAS can be activated or deactivated if on momentarily by holding down the F key. It can be toggled by pressing the T key. If you have problems following the maneuvers, once you enable SAS and lift off, you can click the small red button on the left of the Naviball that has a miniature target indicator. It's the lower left on all the buttons.
I don't see it.
All the buttons.
This one? Yeah.
That will cause the SAS to follow the target indicator and fly for you. Note, this autopiloting function will not be available until you are flying. This craft has a bit too much engine, so we're going to throttle down for launch. Set your throttle to 2/3 the upper of the two middle notches.
2/3. One, two.
It will also turn on SAS to help control things.
Oh, there's the thing.
It will keep you pointed to where you want to be pointed. During this lesson, some of the information is quite detailed and could take a while to read. As this is a short suborbital hop, I don't want you to miss anything important. I will place a warning at the top of the page where you might want to pause the game to read. The warning will look like this. Warning, detailed info, press escape to pause if necessary. Okay, enough talk. I'll unlock the rest of the flight controls and you'll be clear to launch. At any time you may press the escape to pause the game. In the pause menu, you can restart the flight or end this tutorial and return to the main menu. I've enabled the target marker on the nav ball. Give it a look and make sure you see it. And then let's get ready to light this candle. Double check your throttle is at 2/3. The upper left, the SAS is enabled. And then hit space when you're ready. Remember to launch turning the launch. Remember to start turning at 50 ms.
Okay. Okie dokie.
Now it's time to start turning. Follow the target. Looking good. We're aiming to get a 70-degree pitch line. Excellent work. We've got the rocket just where we need it. You should be able to let the SAS keep the craft steady for a while as we accelerate further. Now go ahead and throttle up to full power. Oops, looks like you're not going to clear the atmosphere.
What? Dang it. I wasn't paying attention. Out of gas. Alright. Revert flight. Dang it. I just... T... and... 2/3.
Whoops.
Gosh dang it.
Great work. You're successful at getting your ship on the indicator to align your velocity vector. That will minimize drag by turning the smallest sides into the vehicle into the airflow. Somewhere around here you will see...
They should have just paused it, to be honest. Just push the escape button on their own.
Somewhere around here you will see the Navi speed indicator auto switch from surface to orbit. Accompanied by the speed number jumping on ahead and switch back to the surface mode by clicking on it until it says surface again. You may have noticed some flickering flames near the end of our burn there, which is due to the high speed of your craft in the atmosphere. Normally our ascent would be a little slower, but I'm sure my friend Werner has helped you build a ship that can withstand this heat. And besides, this high and this slow, you'll be fine. If you want to have a look at your trajectory, you can switch into the map M key and look for the path. Just remember to come back to flight mode again. Now that we're coasting on our way to Apophis, that's the highest point of our current projected path, we've got a little time to chat. Once you clear the atmosphere, we'll go over what you can do in space.
I don't know if I'll make it to space. I accidentally let go of my rocket. I'm still rising. Oops. I'm not gonna end up. Yeah, I need to just redo this. Takes a lot of time to do many things during flight. It's one of the things that always put me away from actually playing the game was like the steep learning curve. But I can see why it's interesting enough to play. Coasting our way.
While we float up here beyond the atmosphere, I'll quickly tell you about the couple of things that you can do. With an advanced enough astronaut complex in the KSC, we can train our Kerbals to be able to spacewalk, or EVA, although we won't be doing that on this flight. Also, when we are carrying science devices like our goo containers, we can perform experiments. Feel free to play with the goo canisters by right-clicking them. I'll let you know when it's time for the next phase of this orbital flight.
Observe mystery goo. Transmit data. Observe mystery goo. Keep experimenting. Review data. Keep experimenting. Inoperable after transmitting. Oh wait, did I already reset goo canister? Observe mystery gear. Keep experimenting. Reset experiment. Observe mystery gear. Oops.
Detailed info. As we near the edge of the atmosphere again, it's time to reorient our pod and get ready for re-entry. We're only going to re-enter with the pod and chute and the goop canisters, but we're not going to decouple yet. In real missions, it's best to keep your upper stage until the last moment. You never know when you might need it. Anyway, it's best to re-enter bottom first. And since we ascended about 70-degree pitch, we naturally re-enter at about a negative 70 degrees pitch. That means you want to aim for the top of the capsule at the 70-degree pitch line, but the opposite heading. This is at a heading of 270 on the nav ball and 70 degrees pitch. And I've placed the target marker there to help you see where this lies. Turn SAS off, change your altitude, and turn it back on again.
SAS on.
Nice, so hold steady, your new altitude, let SAS. Now it's time to get rid of the boosters since it's just weighing us down. Stage to discard the unneeded parts. And during re-entry, you're now re-entering Kerbal atmosphere. Make sure to keep all hands and feet inside the pods at all times. We don't want you getting burnt or anything. Don't mind the flames. Werner is a world-famous rocket scientist, after all, and he built the ship to withstand them. Last time we watched the parachute icon to wait for the right time to open the parachute. This time we're going to do something a little different. Remember in your construction tutorial where you designed this vessel, you set those chutes to not semi-deploy until 0.75 atmosphere pressure. That means the chute won't perform the first of its 2 deployment steps until then. Even if you activate it by staging now, the Kerbal 0.75 means about 200 meters out of altitude above sea level. And the craft should be traveling slowly enough by then that the chute will survive deployment. So let's take the bold step of arming the chute now and let the smarts in the pop at the right altitude. You know you can trust me. Stage the chute now by pressing space. Awesome. So while we set your chute to not automatically semi-deploy until around 2 km, we do look out for you at Mission Control. We do need to ensure that the opening height, its second full deployment step, is correct. You can even adjust the parameters during flight, so right-click the parachute now and check their sliders. Don't touch the pressure slider or bad things will happen. And make sure the full deploy altitude is no less than 1,000 meters, or you will not have enough time to slow down. Once you're satisfied, just hang on until about 2 km and watch the parachute trigger itself according to the settings you've chosen. While we're waiting, I want you to look at the bottom of the capsule. Note that you do not have a heat shield. You don't need one because it's such a gentle flight. Actually, a heat shield would make things more dangerous on this craft because the additional mass would be pushing the limits of the module of the parachute.
What was I doing? It wanted me to check the parachute. Seems fine. Ready to shoot. I should probably close one of these. At least in the later missions. Re-entry.
Yes, the chute is away. Now enjoy your leisurely float down to the surface.
Bum, 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 bum.
Welcome back and congratulations on completing and even surviving your first real mission. You managed to launch, control your vessel into space, orient yourself correctly, and land safely. That's quite an achievement. If you want to practice this again, choose revert to launch from the pause menu. Otherwise, end the scenario. And be sure to check out the other tutorials. My next one is about going for orbit, and it is really exciting. There's always lots more to learn at the KSE.
Oops. I swim. Why is the little guy like 2 FPS? Okie dokie. That's a good question for the devs to answer. Like basic designs of orbital, so now we're at advanced construction. go for orbit, I believe. Where are you? So the famous rocket scientist designed to craft an orbit carbon. Alright, so go for orbit.
Today, we will tackle an absolutely essential skill for any space program, getting to orbit. Without this skill, we might as well be teaching you Kerbal Flight Simulator. I trust you've already checked the other flight tutorials as well as the advanced construction one to be familiar with the Kerbal 1 vessel we will be launching today. Yeah. If not, I highly recommend you do so before going through this one. If you want to go back and try the others, then press escape and choose end scenario, otherwise press next and we'll proceed. Alrighty then, let's do it. As I said before, the plan here is to get our vessel and pilot safely into orbit. As with the suborbitable flight we did previously, we will follow a curved path to get to the point where we can circularize our orbit. Today's gravity turn, however, will be much shallower than the path we followed previous, so that we build speed towards orbit. This is different from how the Kerbal pilots of old did it. They would head straight up and then hang a right as if the air was soup or something. We'll be turning early and smoothly, but don't turn too far, or you might be mistaken for one of those low-flying turkeys. As with the previous flight, I will place a target marker on the navi ball to show you optimal velocity vector, but do note that this indicator won't be around normally and is not usually used the way this tutorial uses it. It also displays some technical information about your path as you go to help you learn the right way to get there. For now, set your throttle to max, press Z, and prepare to launch. You should now see a marker above the nav ball, so you'll have something to follow. And this ship has been designed so that you don't need to worry about throttle control during the ascent. Hit space when you're ready to go for orbit. If you want Valentina, the Kerbal pilot, to fly the curve for you, then you can enable SAS and set the mode to target after liftoff. Get ready to turn to pitch once we're at 60. Time to start turning the pitch. Looks like something went wrong. You're way off course. You need to be quick about following the instructions.
Wow, rude. I'm trying to figure it out. You do it.
Great, keep the following target and get ready to discard the lower stage. Stage again to ignite. Excellent. You survived through the first phase of the launch. Now we have a longer, more gentle burn. If you switch to the map mode, you can have a look at the trajectory of the rocket. Great, now you can keep an eye on your trajectory. You can right-click the marker pin so that it remains visible. We need to keep burning along the path until we clear the atmosphere. Hard to monitor. We'll aim for 80. Cut the engine. Press X once the opposite hits 80 kilometers. 8 km. 81 km. Oh, right here. That's going to get us there. We made sure the engine shut off for now. We'll coast and clear the atmosphere at 70 km altitude, and you'll notice that your speed is dropping as little as the coast. Nothing to be concerned about. It's just gravity trying to bring us down. The air trying to prevent our success. We'll beat it though. You're looking good. Meanwhile, keep an altitude display open so you can track your progress ascending your altitude display. Where? All by myself. Orient your vessel. You're almost there. All we need to do is accelerate some more and pass Kerbal. Rotate your craft to align it with the propagated marker. Learn about that. Or use SAS. Manual maneuver mode. When the time to throttle up, I'll tell you. Wait, I don't know which way you want me to orient.
catch your engine once you complete the burn. I've calculated for you. You can... Once you're started... Now throttle up. Congratulations, you're now officially in orbit. That's quite an achievement. Hopefully you can see the difference between suborbital hop and reaching orbit ascent, and just how far and early we turned. Also notice how we designed our rockets to accelerate reasonably through the ascent, and didn't go straight to ludicrous speeds. Overpowering the ship is a common rookie mistake. So now we're forever orbiting. And that's as far as I'm taking it today. We can catch up again in the Orbit 101 tutorial where I show you about orbits and adjusting them. If you want to fly solo for a bit, you can also try bringing Valentina home from this tutorial flight. You will need to turn around 180 degrees, burn the retrograde until your periphery is less than 20 km, at which the height of the atmosphere will do most of the braking for you. Stage away the upper stage when you hit the atmosphere's edge, orient the retrograde, and re-enter like I taught you in the flight basics. Or simply choose end scenario from the pause menu, and I'll see you later. So basically aim at Earth and we probably want to be oriented the other way when we start flying in. Oop, 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 hoppa. Is that touchy? A little bit. How's it going, Bash? Good to see you. We should land okay. Think. Whoop. What? Whoop. 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 Okay. I find it weird that I can change the orientation like that. Well, I can let go of the SAS now, I guess. Yeah, I don't need the SAS anymore. I should have gone to the moon. We landed. Let go. What was that button? Saw it say. Crew hatch, no. Now I can't get out. Remember exploding a lot. I'm just doing the tutorials. Trying to figure everything out. Apparently I can control this. Oh. Whee! Oops. Well, I'm sure that's the first time people died while after landing. Well,